and lonely. Go and figure out why. Take a trip to your downside. Go on and have a good cry. We're all lonely. We're all lonely together. I wanna see your sadness. I wanna share your sins. I wanna bleed your blood. I wanna be let in. Don't we all just wanna be together? Leave what's heavy behind. Leave what's heavy behind. Lift your faces down and take a look around. Do your fingers move or do your lungs inflate? Are you tired? Are you weary of the hidden hate you've been holding? Hey, did you lose that love or have you ever had? And are you feeling sad 'cause you did a bad thing? Hey, leave what's heavy behind. Leave what's heavy behind.
Yeah, this is great.
Shove it up and which way? It didn't work. Kind of worked. Woo! I'm not trying to work. It's fine. You can play. Hi!
Are you feeling fearful, brother? Are you feeling fearful, sister? The way to lose that fearful feeling, replace it with love that's healing. Are you feeling fearful, brother? Are you feeling fearful, sister? Leave what's heavy behind. Leave what's heavy behind. Sing with us the last one. Leave what's heavy behind. Leave what's heavy behind.
In the heat of October, the 33rd day, from the shadowy plains and the stile of Pompeii, a bouldery silhouette rolled up the hill, in front of one smaller and humaner still. This is today the subject of our story, a man, Sisyphus, and his roll down from glory. See, Sisyphus was not, as they say, the most humble, but he sure had a collection of trophies to tumble. The first king of Corinth, clever and cruel, outsmarted Greek gods in every duel. Depending on who has the truer myth or story, he tricked death and war and Pluto or Persephone, but I'm hedging what edged him right over the edge was his pompousy prattle, or attitudinal tattling. That last part is what frazzled the grumpy god Zeus, who never took kindly to personal abuse. So even if he didn't rule Mount Virtuous, he made sure justice was served to old Sisyphus. And so, clever Sisyphus couldn't seem to stop climbing, and yet some would say he had the habit of smiling. 'Cause while his name's now a synonym, which means it's the same, for the word futility, we play that same game. See, he'd push the rock right to the tippy-tip-top, but the moment before he'd reach it, it stopped, and then slip, plop, scratch, gack, and off of his shoulder, and he was running the trail of a runaway boulder. So I'm not sure roly stones are really the struggle, or even some repetitive drummy druggle, as much as the way that we think that's what's needed. And seeking life, never live it. This story, then unheeded.
Welcome everyone. I'm Melissa Locke and I'm excited to welcome you to this live stream Easter gathering with fabric. We are experimenting with different times and hoping that it catches you at a time that works no matter what time zone you're in or what life zone you're in, frankly. So today, as I film this here in Minneapolis, it is a really pretty nice day. There's blue sky. It's warmer than it's been in a long time. There's quite a breeze I'm noticing, and the water in Minnehaha Creek is flowing and looks pretty calm. The branches are going to pop soon, but they're still pretty bare looking. And the ground has still got all of the crunchy brown leaves on it, but there's some green stuff poking up. I can't help but wonder what it will be like here in a couple days on April 4th and what it is like where you are. So what is it like? Let us know in the comments right now. What are you seeing from where you are? What's nature up to today there? Is it windy? Are the skies blue or cloudy? What's happening in the ground? What animals are coming and going right now? So let us know what you see outside your window and let us know that you're here. Get those comments going. One of the great parts of connecting virtually is being able to connect with you from wherever you are. Being connected as fabric means we are weaving 3 strands of life together. The first strand is you, and you, and you, and you, all of your amazing selves, woven together with the amazing variety of others around us. Others, that second strand. Other people, other living things, other wonders of this world that we get to share. And what about the third strand? The source of all that wonder, that goodness that we want to align our lives with and experience more of. We might call it God or love, but it's really hard to put your finger on it, isn't it? And yet, it's as close as the wind blowing across your face, the earth beneath your feet, the hellos from a stranger, the heart beating in your chest. It's so close that sometimes we might not even take note of it. And yet it is here, within us and among us, all the time. So welcome to Easter. You know, last year we did Easter virtually, and we didn't expect to be doing it again this year, to be frank. That's the story of our lives this year, I think, right? A lot of hard and unexpected things. So I want to take a minute together to mark those things and remember that we don't have to hold them alone. We hold them together. And we're going to use our hands to help us. So I invite you to choose a hand and start with your pinky finger and just grab onto it. I like to put my hand by my heart as I do this and remember things. So take a deep breath, grab your pinky finger, and join me to remember, starting with something that you've missed this year. Take a breath for that. Now let's move to your ring finger. And with this one, I want to remember the people that have died this year. People that we've lost to COVID and other illnesses, to violence and injustice, to hopelessness, to isolation. Squeeze that finger even harder for someone close to you, someone dear to you who you have lost this year. And take a breath. So our strong, tall middle finger, I want you to squeeze that for a change that feels hard and needed right now. What is a change that feels hard but needed? And take a breath for that. And with your pointer finger, what is weighing on you right now? Anything that feels heavy. Let's hold that together. Take a breath. And the last one, your thumb. What are you thankful for? Take a breath for something you have gratitude for. With all the change and unexpected parts of life, there's one thing that we can count on here in Minneapolis, and that's this giant, oddly proportioned bunny. This is Cottontail on the Trail, sculpted out of bronze by Jeff Barber and installed here by what I bet was a really big crane back in 2002. This bunny is not going anywhere. That's how some of the things in my life feel, and I bet yours too. There are things I wish could move, and they just don't seem to be moving. Kind of like Sisyphus. Sisyphus. Say that a few times in a row. Sisyphus, Sisyphus. It's kind of tricky. But whatever is tricky, or whatever feels heavy, or even light in your life, thank you for being here. And thank you for helping make this virtual experience alive with connection and meaning and smiles. Thank you for all the people who helped bring their music and their reflections and themselves into this gathering. I can't wait to see how it comes to life with all of us together. Welcome.
Happy Easter. I'm Greg Meyer. Thanks for taking this time to be with us today. You probably thought that you were going to be hearing the story of Jesus and the stone rolling away from the tomb, and instead you hear the Greek myth about Sisyphus, whom Zeus condemned to roll a stone up a mountain for eternity. The truth is, they both have something to say about what this day is all about. And what I find interesting, and in fact kind of a little bit funny, is that the story that we are most familiar with, that of Jesus and the stone being rolled away from the tomb, that's not really the one that's the most like our lives. I mean, I think the story of Sisyphus is much more like who we are and the situation that we're in. Yeah, both of them have a big stone, heavy, practically immovable, that is stopping life. You got some of those kinds of stones in your life? Big ones, little ones, stuff that comes from beside you, stuff that is around you, having that effect on you? I'd encourage you to write those in the chat right now. You can be a little cryptic about it, but be brave. I think it's important for us to realize that we aren't alone in the stuff that is impacting our lives. So take a little bit of a risk there and share some of the stones in your life in that chat. I think I probably know what some of the big ones are that we're all sharing at this time. For instance, the pandemic. Anyone feel like they've been rolling that one up the hill for about the last year or so? Then maybe there's some income, job, livelihood insecurity that you have as you wonder how long the pandemic is going to last. And then there's all the social upheaval. I mean, how are you feeling with the racial and equity rebalancing of society that's going on around us? Then polarization. Feeling that? How it's affecting us socially and politically in our world around us? And then Then there's the burden of our environmental worries that we have right now and how they're going to impact you and your world and your very own life. That's the stuff we all share, but then we all have our own personal and individual ones that are unique to us as well. Maybe it has to do, with your relationships, your relationships at home or at work or with your friends, or maybe it's your own sense of meaning and purpose in your life, or perhaps has to do with your physical or mental well-being. What are the weights that you're carrying around in life? If the story of Jesus at Easter is all about stones being rolled away so nothing can stop life, and the story of Sisyphus is about pushing away at heavy things with no end in sight, then I just have to say my life feels a lot more like Sisyphus's life than like Jesus. I feel like I'm constantly pushing away at things that I just can't change. But I wonder if it really makes sense to have to choose between the two. It seems like they're really describing two very different experiences with the obstacles, the problems, the stones that we have in our lives. Sisyphus is describing like where we end up, what just happens to us, what ends up happening to us. And the story of Jesus and his stone, well, that's describing, or that's imagining what could be possible. Which do you want your life to be about? Do you want your life to be the story of what just happened because it did, or do you want your life to be the story of what was possible and you reached for it? The story of Sisyphus, it's a story of me on my own, accomplishing what I can accomplish by my strength, my insight, my courage, my perspective on the world. The story of Jesus and that stone, that's the story of me fully woven, the story of me being part of and a product of something that is so much bigger than me. And if my life can be about what is possible, not just where I feel trapped, then I want to know that. I want a vision of my life that looks like that. Well, that story all began several years before the day that Easter talks about. Jesus was a man that many people had pinned their hopes on. He had taught them, he'd lived with them, he'd lived like them. He touched their lives, he brought hope, he brought healing to them. And then he also ruffled the feathers of the powers that be of that day. As he was messing more and more with the status quo, the people who had the most invested in it were getting pretty unhappy about it, and they decided they needed to get rid of him. And there were lots of challenges and attempts over the next couple of years. And then finally there was an arrest. There was a mock trial, and there was an execution. They hung him on a cross to die. You can imagine what it must have been like for those people at that time, the people who knew him the most and loved him. The weight of how heavy that had to be in their lives as they had to lower the limp body of this man who had inspired so much hope, so much power, so much courage, so much vision in them, unceremoniously then leaving it in a tomb hurriedly because sundown was almost there and the Sabbath would begin. It had to be a lot like Sisyphus would have felt when he was just barely starting up that mountain. He's cold, he's lonely, he's hungry, he feels this grip starting to slip on the stone, and suddenly it rolls back down over him, down to the bottom of the mountain again. Then it was Sunday. The Sabbath was over, and a few of the women among Jesus' closest followers head to the tomb to complete the burial rituals. I imagine them walking and talking amongst themselves as they head to the tomb, the sun rising, casting long shadows, their heads bent down, their voices quiet. They had to have been wondering how they were possibly going to accomplish what they were headed there to do, because the stone that was sealing the tomb was far too heavy, far too big for them to possibly move. There is a stone, a big one, a heavy one, maybe several of them, that is stopping life. We have our moments when, I suppose Sisyphus did too, when we feel optimistic and we kind of forget about it all, but then something happens and we face that stone again and we're back to pushing it again, moving the immovable.
What does love take, you ask? On Lifetime's new show, Tough Love, we find out. The show puts couples to the test to see what really tough love is made of. Love requires a keen sense of hearing.
Run!
Love takes a little sweetness and the ability to run fast. Love means sticking together, even when it's scary. Love requires quick reflexes and the strength to stick by someone's side no matter what. Tune in on Monday nights to find out more with Tough Love.
Of the abyss, a man walked up to Sisyphus, barefoot and tireless, said his name was Jesus. Jesus said to Sisyphus, maybe you feel sick of this, looks like you could use a rest and got some experience. Jesus, time you took your turn, put to practice what you've learned. What exactly have you learned? Jesus said to him in turn, well, something that feels just right, yin and yang, day and night, utility and hopefulness. Oh, Jesus and Sisyphus. Sisyphus leaned to the side, wiped the sweat out of his eye. I thought I saw a twinkle there as he fixed him with an angry stare. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, what is this? The teacher has to bring a quiz. King of shade, this shepherd is. People say you take their licks. Jesus cocked his head and smiled. You're alone and cheating there. Play your games or instead go and see what's there. Something that feels just right, yin and yang, day and night, humility and arrogance. Oh, Jesus and Sisyphus. Let it roll, 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 roll. Gotta let it go. Let it roll, 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 roll. We've all got our own cross to bear. I can see myself in this. Can't seem to make it fit. Tension bringing centeredness. Jesus and Sisyphus. Something that feels just right. Yin and yang, day and night. Utility and hopefulness. So Jesus and Sisyphus.
And sorry if I left you in kind of a dismal place there, but Easter is more than chocolate Easter bunnies, you know, and that is how the story goes. And to be honest, that's how our lives go an awful lot of the time. It often feels like we live more in Sisyphus world than in Jesus world. The good news is that this story isn't over. Those women who showed up on Sunday morning doubtful they could possibly move this stone that was separating them from this life that had been taken away from them were shocked. the story tells us, that they were amazed and scared because when they got there, they discovered that the stone had already been moved. They didn't have to do it. How? They had no idea. In fact, they had very little idea what was going on at all. The tomb was empty. Jesus was missing. Now, at this point, the story starts getting a little muddy. Various accounts of the story have various things happening, which isn't really all that unusual in an era when documenting an event really wasn't even a thing yet, and accuracy meant accuracy to the meaning of a story, not to the details of it. But generally what's going on is that the women either meet one or two messengers dressed in bright white, or one of them sees Jesus, or one meets him and thinks he's a gardener. Generally a lot of confusion. But you know, to me, that confusion isn't the problem. That confusion is actually the point. And the point is best summed up in a line that is found in the version where the women meet these two guys in the tomb, and one of them says to them, "Why are you looking for the living among the dead?" Wow, I mean, that's quite a question. Why do we keep looking for the stuff of life in the places that can't possibly hold it? Why do I keep pushing that boulder up the mountain when in my heart of hearts I know that even if I could get it up there and I could keep it from rolling back down, I don't think it would take all my problems away anyway. Maybe what I really want doesn't have anything to do with pushing that stone. What if the life that I'm really looking for can't be found inside that tomb that I keep knocking on the door of? What if that tomb can't be sealed up by any of those stones that seem to be weighing me down so much? Maybe the life that I'm really looking for, even though it is full of imperfections, but it has that deep down goodness that I always know is true and real, maybe it's here already. Maybe it's hiding out in the open and has been all along, and I just don't have eyes to see it yet. Remember the women and the confusion they had? Why didn't they recognize Jesus? Why couldn't they figure out what was going on? But it wasn't only them. I mean, kind of everybody was having trouble figuring out this raised from the dead Jesus and who he is and whether it was actually him or not. I mean, either people seemed to not be able to tell it was him at all, or at least they had trouble recognizing them. Thomas, one of his closest disciples, had to be invited to inspect his wounds to believe it was actually Jesus. And two of his disciples walked with him all the way to another village called Emmaus, deep in conversation the whole time, and never recognized him until he finally left them. I mean, really? Come on now. I mean, that's kind of weird. In fact, admitting that you spent all this time intimately with him and you didn't recognize it kind of undermines your argument that it actually was him, right? I mean, whoever wrote that story down, why didn't they fix it? Why didn't they change that little detail that adds all this skepticism to the story, unless that actually was part of the point? Maybe there was something about this hard to recognize Jesus that they knew we needed to understand, and so they're making sure that detail was there for us. Maybe the truth is that the life you're looking for can't be seen with the eyes that you have for the old. We need new eyes. We need to look at and for something different. When all I can see is that I'm still stuck in the middle of this pandemic that sucks, that I'm not sure whether I'm going to lose my job before the economy recovers, or I can't see how we'll possibly make all the changes we need in order to solve the problems of climate change before it's too late. When that's all I can see, then I am not seeing where life is. Your eyes have written a script, and now you're using it to explain everything about the world. But don't trust your view of the world that you have when you're stuck behind a boulder. You can't see anything from there. Maybe it's time to step out from behind that boulder. Maybe you didn't need to be there in the first place. Maybe life can and does work differently.
processed in a facility with a lot of nuts.
There's a hope that one wishes would be, kind of like the, wouldn't it be nice if only kind of wish? It's the way you feel after you had a bite of that It's Fine bar, or probably the dream that Sisyphus had as he was pushing that stone up the mountain, hoping he could get a chalk under it so it wouldn't roll back down on him again. And then there's another kind of hope. There's a hope one sees in the distance, and rather than waiting for it, one works to make it so. The kind of work that realizes that sort of hope isn't working longer, harder, faster. It's learning to reframe the issue, to ask better questions, to change what we're chasing. It probably means changing the way we see and what we do with the stones in our lives. That story that we just heard of, this is my book. What did you think of that? Did you think the story got better or worse when Spike got involved? You know, I don't know what the story's going to be like when it was the authors alone to create, but it did get pretty interesting when the story got bigger than the author thought a book ever could or should be. So, what about your book? Could it be our book? I mean, not our book in the sense of you get less because you have to share it with us, but our book in the sense that it got so much bigger than you ever imagined, and there's a place for all of us in it, and you get more than you ever thought you were going to be getting. That's kind of how I see the second stone story, the Easter one. It isn't about how the stone got moved. It isn't about God and Jesus being able to do something that we can't do. It's about the possibility that God and Jesus are already doing something and we are part of it. It isn't about the stone at all. It is about the fact that life cannot be stopped. When life feels like it's sealed up in a tomb, instead of fighting my way out, maybe it's time to start looking for life somewhere where it can't be sealed up. I mean, that kind of life isn't going to look like what I'm used to. It's going to be hard to recognize, but that's not a problem. That's just an adjustment. When pushing that stone up the mountain just starts feeling impossible, maybe that's time for me to realize that this isn't my defeat. This is a message. This is my message that maybe I don't need to push it up the mountain. Maybe I can push it around it, or maybe I don't need to push it alone, or maybe I don't even have to push it. Now, don't get the impression that everything is going to be nice and pretty, your problem's going to get solved, and you can get on with your life. No, it doesn't work that way. The fact that really nobody could recognize this Jesus, this come back to life Jesus, lets me know that this kind of hope is always a work under progress. Right now, here in the Twin Cities, we are awaiting the trial of Derek Chauvin, and we are on pins and needles, partly because we're worried about violent riots happening again, but I think more so because we realize that there is more on trial here than just some men who killed George Floyd. The stone that we are pitted against right now is the trial of we the people, because we realize we and we the people is really only some of the people, and that has systematically left out others and their lives are being destroyed, the lives of so many black and brown bodies. How do we get rid of that stone that is among us? It isn't by saying it doesn't exist. It isn't by saying it's already been rolled away, because it does exist and it hasn't been rolled away. The stone that doesn't have to exist is the stone of racism. That is a stone that dominant society has been pushing for so long that it doesn't even know it's pushing it anymore. But like I said, don't trust your view of the future or the world from what you can see behind a boulder. Speaking as a white person in a white privileged society, I know that we need to let others help us write our book. We need to let others write our story, our future, in a way that leaves that boulder behind and isn't stopping life anymore. I know the world that is bringing us to is something that is unfamiliar to us. We don't know what that's going to look like, and that's going to be messy, and we get uncomfortable with that sort of uncertainty. But we do know that it's taking us to a world where the lives of other people, the lives of all people, are honored and respected and cherished. And that is a better world. I'm reminded of an interview of Barack Obama's just recently. He's reflecting on the fact that all the things that had solutions were solved before it ever got to his or to any president's desk for that matter. So the stuff he was faced with day in and day out was the messy stuff, the stuff that you could make a better or a worse choice about, but you're never going to find anything that everybody agreed on or that satisfied everybody. It's really the same in our lives. Sure, we each have things unique to ourselves that we have to figure out, but the real showstoppers are the things that just are intrinsically messy. They're not going to have a solution. We're going to have to get in there and work on them. It's stuff about our relationships. It's about your sense of contentment, your clarity about your life. It's maybe the ruts that the world and systems have created that you're stuck in and you're just not able to change on your own. But just because we aren't there yet doesn't mean that we can't have a vision for that future. We all need a vision of our future that the stones in our lives can't keep us away from. Now, that won't mean that you'll suddenly be able to run a marathon or that your dishwasher will empty itself. It doesn't mean that you will always be treated fairly or that you always treat other people fairly. It doesn't mean that children will suddenly all obey their parents or that parents will suddenly understand their children. But it might mean that life and love and even joy and fulfillment won't be stopped by those things that feel like they are immovable objects in front of us. It might mean that you stop looking for the living among the dead. It might mean that you quit seeking love where you thought it should be and start discovering it where it actually is. There are a lot of reasons why we call our community fabric. But one of the very important reasons is that there are a lot of threads in this world that are woven together tightly and deeply, and we want to be a part of that. We don't find our resilience or our strength in life alone, but in life together. And that means life isn't about me and isn't about you, and it isn't about you and me. It's about all of us. Us and that fabric that is bigger, that is more beautiful, that is beyond anything that any of us can ask or imagine, and that wants and needs you and me to be part of it. Happy Easter. Hope lives.
Song, counterweight to the complication. It's as real as death, it can steal your breath. Well, I don't think we should let it.
What I give for just good news, counterweight to the aggravation. Seems like it's only bad. I turn it off and still feel sad. I don't think we should let it. When everything's wrong, something's still right. When everything's gone, when it's all gone to hell, toast to a new life. When everything's heavy, look for the light. Buscando, days I feel like I can live in
in this cage around me.
When everything goes up in flames, you don't know how to sustain. The beat your body's pounding when everything's wrong. Something's still right when everything's gone. The pathways are wide when it's all gone to hell. We'll toast to a new life when everything's heavy. Look for the light. Do it right and do it better. Do it perfectly this time. Doesn't work, but it doesn't matter. If we're living life together. Busquenlo, buscar when everything's wrong. Something's still right when everything's gone. The pathways are wide when it's all gone to hell. We'll toast to a new life when everything's heavy. Look for the light when everything's heavy. Look for the light. Busquenlo, buscar. Busquenlo, buscar. Busquenlo, buscar. Busquenlo, buscar. 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 Buscar.
Thank you for the sharing in the comments. That's a way that we can remember that we're not alone with these things that feel heavy and like they need pushing. We also invite you to go to the link and share on our communication card. Even if it's just a smiley face to let us know you're here, we would love that. You can also share comments and questions and feedback and prayers that you would like held with you. As Fabric, we're always learning how to create meaningful community around conversations that matter now. And now, and now, with all the changes. Your financial support for that work also matters in any form and in any amount. Thank you for being Fabric.
Hi, I'm Roxanne, your Rock Fitness instructor.
Hi, I'm Courtney, here with Rock Fitness.
Hey, it's me, Rosie. Welcome to Rock Fitness.
If you follow our simple, strict 3-point plan, your problems will feel a whole lot lighter.
We can overcome the heavy things.
You don't need to be perfect. You just gotta get started. Now let's clip in, get your arms on those bike handles, and let's get ready to rock.
When quarantine hit, life was definitely getting me down. Then I heard about Rock Fitness, where we lift the weight that life has put on our shoulders.
We focus on 1, short workouts 3 times a day.
You had a bad day at the office today? I don't give a darn. You get on that bike and you push.
2, ignoring all the unsolvable problems in our world. And 3, doing a juice cleanse at the end of each month.
It's not about being the best. It's about being better than you were yesterday. And what you were yesterday was trash, so let's get going.
Let's rock.
Let's rock.
There's a time of peace. There's a time of rest. There's a time of consolation near the heart of God. There's a time of joy. There's a time to dance. There's a time of celebration near the heart of God. Lord, you've borne a burden, shown us God's devotion, brought us to the face of love, but we're not so good at loving each other. Held us in your arms of mercy, just keep bringing us near the heart of God. There's a time of love. There's a time of grace. There's a time of sacrifice near the heart of God. Lord, you've borne a burden, shown us God's devotion, brought us to the face of love, but we're not so good at loving each other. Hold us in your arms of mercy, just keep bringing us near the heart of God. Jesus, by your gentle whisper, help us love our brother and sister, even as our cups brim over. Keep on bringing us near the heart of God.
So thanks for being here, everybody. Our next conversation as Fabric is going to be around one of those things that seems so elusive in so many parts of my life, at least: enough. Is enough something we always have or something we never quite have? We're going to explore this through our podcast, so join us there on Sunday in Zoom or through groups, any of those. And these are for all ages, chances to experience and explore and grow and connect for all ages. We also hope to be seeing each other in person as it makes sense this summer. So watch for chances to connect at Minnehaha Falls coming up soon. Thanks again for joining us today. Thank you so much for all of those who contributed their time, their equipment, their skills, themselves to this gathering. Happy Easter, everybody!